Welcome back to BYoungMinistry.com, to another blog and to another podcast. Today we continue in our study of the book of Romans. We're in chapter 1, verse 18, which reads, "The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness." That's Romans chapter 1, verse 18. What do you think of when you hear the words, the wrath of God? When I was younger, I had an understanding of God which was quite inconsistent with the Bible. I believed that God was lurking behind any billboard, just waiting for me to do something wrong, and then he would pounce on me. This view of God was not accurate. In fact, the Bible consistently teaches that the problem is not with God, it is with us. Interestingly, the gospel message begins with a statement about the wrath of God. Frankly, that's diametrically opposed to most of our evangelistic techniques. Most of our contemporary evangelism purposefully avoids that theme. We talk about love, and we talk about happiness, and we talk about abundant living. We talk about forgiveness and joy and peace. And we offer people all those things and ask them if they wouldn't like to have all of those things. But we very rarely talk about God's judgment. We err when we do this. The shortness of life, the brevity of it, the sorrow of it, the tragedy of all the pain involved. This is all part of what is captured here under that phrase, the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven. No one escapes God's wrath. It is being revealed, and we have to face it. Fear, for most, must be the first pressure applied. This is the case because we will not understand anything about God's love until we understand God's hatred of sin. We do not understand, nor do we appreciate God's grace until we understand the wickedness of our sin. God's attributes are perfectly balanced in his divine perfection. If he had no wrath, he would not be God. God is perfect in love on the one hand, and he is equally perfect in hate on the other. Just as totally as he loves, so totally he hates. As his love is unmixed, so is his hatred of sin unmixed. The bad news has to come before the good news, doesn't it? It's kind of like going to the doctor and having the doctor say, "I have bad news." You have to deal with the fatal illness that has killed many people. But I have good news. A cure has been found, and I have it right here. The good news means nothing without the bad news. We have to diagnose the disease before the cure can be appreciated. The bad news is God hates sin. And the good news is God loves us. We must start with his hatred of sin. There must be a diagnosis before there can be a cure. When mankind chose to ignore God's definition of things, we gave the enemy the right to define us and our world. Thus, we are not defined by God, and we are messed up because of it. Of course, as Paul pointed out in Romans chapter 1, verses 16 and 17, God moved to remedy our sin problem by sending his Son to remove the chasm that was created by the rebellion, by our rebellion. When it comes to sin, it is in our nature to water down its definition. We define sin as white lies, mistakes, disorders. No, sin is deliberate, wicked rebellion. It is wicked because we have allowed the one who opposes God to define things for us. Yes, we were deceived, but we gave in to it. Notice the order in today's verse: godlessness, then wickedness. Throughout the scriptures, this order is never reversed. It is our godless definitions that produces the wicked actions that we make. That is why the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against man. Godlessness isn't necessarily atheism or the belief that God doesn't exist. Godlessness is acting as though he does not exist. As a result, like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, we try to hide or suppress the definition of God, of all things, by embracing the definitions of Satan. We do not do this knowingly. No, we have been deceived into believing that Satan's definition of things is right and normal. That is, until his definition of things begins to bite us in the butt. And then we want to blame God for that. We act selfishly and we deliberately hurt each other because we disregarded God and his definition of all things. By means of these hurtful and selfish acts, the truth is suppressed. We live in a world in which the truth from God is clear all around us. But we are busy covering it up, hiding it, suppressing it, keeping it from being prominent and dominant in our thinking and our living. In fact, once we start behaving according to God's definition of things, we are too worried that others might think we are weird. It is against that attitude of hiding truth and suppressing the truth that the wrath of God burns. The reason why life has turned tragic in so many cases is because the world is deprived of the truth, which is necessary for life and liberty and freedom and godliness to be realized. The wrath of God is the absence of God in our world and in our lives. The greatest demonstration of God's wrath ever was given at the cross. God's hatred for sin was shown best when he poured out his wrath on his own beloved Son. And he did not hold back, even from his own Son. This underscores God's love for fallen man. And it also demonstrates how much God hates sin. And had he not sent his Son to that cross, and had his Son not willingly gone to that cross, we would have been left in our sin, defined and destined by Satan himself. My friends, I trust this blog and this podcast are helpful to you in your walk with the Lord. If I can be of further assistance to you, shoot me an email at BYoungMinistry@gmail.com. Hey, have a great day.